Hello, my name is Mike, and today I wanted to make a video about making a proper glass tank enclosure for your snake. Particularly, I have a juvenile ball python here. I am a relatively new snake owner. I just got him a couple months ago, so it's been quite the learning process, and I've learned so much in the last 2 months of keeping this snake. And originally, when I had bought the snake, I had bought this 40-gallon starter kit, which now I know you should have your enclosure already home, ready, and working before you buy your snake. That way they have a good environment to come home to. This snake here, Smeagol is his name, he has bared with me, and I've gotten to a point where I think we're both pretty happy. And I felt compelled to share it with you because I didn't see a whole lot of information online about how to make a good regulated glass tank enclosure relatively maintenance free and easy to care for. Now, a lot of people, they choose the drawer enclosure type, kind of looks like a dresser to me. I really prefer the glass tank setup because they're such beautiful and majestic creatures. I'd like to have mine here on display for people to see, but the glass tank also does a great job of keeping them safe and contained. So I felt bound and determined to make this work, and like I say, let's go over this, and I'd like to share with you what I've done to make things easier for myself and also make my snake a lot happier. At first, when I bought the starter kit, it came with this 40-gallon tank. It came with a screen top, which I have leaning against the wall here still. It came with some wood substrate. Came with the rock enclosure there on the right. It came with a water bowl. Also a underbelly heating pad and a heat lamp. So when I first brought him home and I got everything set up, it was, I had everything set up within a half hour. It was pretty easy to set up. And he did well in there, I thought, for the first couple weeks. It got to where he was constantly looking for a way out, constantly trying to get out of this enclosure. I thought he just didn't like it in there as far as, he just wanted to escape. Didn't think, I know animals don't like to be kept in a cage. But then I soon realized it was more the fact that he was uncomfortable. The heat and humidity was just up and down. It was, hard to regulate. And it was just, I was having a hard time keeping him comfortable. So the first thing I did was change the top. With the screen top, especially when I had the heat lamp on there, the humidity escaped faster than I could. I was misting 5 times a day. It was a lot of work to keep humidity in this thing. Also, heat rises. So heat was coming right out the top. I wasn't able to hardly keep it warm enough in there. So the first thing I did was I bought this glass top. It's made by Aquin, made in the USA, good quality, nice and heavy. The thing with glass tops, and most people argue this, and they're right, is it does maybe too good a job of keeping heat and humidity. So that's why they've got this plastic strip on the back. And as you can see, I drilled many holes along the back to help with air circulation and keep the air from being stagnant. Now at first I had about a half as many holes in there. And from my temperature controller here and humidity controller here, the numbers were pretty well staying the same. They weren't dropping, which told me that the heat and humidity was staying trapped in there. And telling me that the air was too stagnant and there wasn't enough circulation. So I drilled twice as many holes in there and seen where that got me. And that's when I got the results I liked. That's when I started seeing my temperature dropping. That's when I started seeing my humidity dropping. Now you can see the temperature rising because the heat pad is kicked on. But that's when I started seeing the numbers starting to drop, which told me that it was in fact escaping, and it had my fogger kicking on. It had my heating pad kicking on and off. So that's what told me it had no. Plus, if you smell inside there, it doesn't stink. There's not a mold or water issue going on anywhere in any of the corners, and the snake's skin and scales are free of any type of growth or anything that is caused from too much humidity. So the glass top has helped a lot. Could I drill more holes and create more circulation? Sure. You can never have enough circulation. So don't be afraid to do that if you feel compelled to do so. That has helped greatly. So now, next, the original heat pad that was in here, it was only about to here, and it didn't cover the whole width of the tank. So I went ahead and bought another heating pad and put it right next to it, to where about half of the tank has a heating pad underneath it. Now this one I bought, the second one I bought, it has a dial that you can turn and kind of play with, which is great. But now I have enough heat in here to where I can get the temperatures up where I want them. Now, you can see here from my temperature control, I've got a probe that runs down through the hole, and you can see it. I've got it taped underneath the carpet down there, and that is right above the glass, right above the heating pad, underneath the carpet on the glass, and that is telling me exactly what the temperature of that heating pad is. And once it gets to 96 is where I've got it set at, it'll kick off, and then it'll get back, and then it'll allow it to go down to about 92, and it'll kick back on. So it keeps it between 92 and 96 on the heat pad, which is where you want your hot side. And you can tell he really likes it. I mean, if it was too hot for him, I can guarantee you he would go down here to this end, and where you can see the ambient temperature is about 75. I do not have a temperature thing on the floor there, but if it was too hot for him, he would not have a problem crawling down here and cooling off. That is very important, that you have a hot end and a cool end, and that's how you do that. You keep underbelly heat on one end of it, and then you put nothing on the other end. That way he can thermoregulate himself. Very important. Second, I added this fogger here, which is made by Reptizoo. There's many different brands. This one works well for me. It had good reviews, so I picked it up, and so far it's worked great. I have put distilled water in it, which is going to keep it all nice and clean for you, as clean as possible. But it does great, and I have, as you can see, the power runs up here to this controller, and it keeps my humidity. I've got it to where it kicks on at about 55 and then shuts off about 60. Now it normally creeps a little bit above 60 once the humidity expands within the tank, but I know for sure it's always going to be between 55 and 65, which is great. Works great for him. His first shed, the first few weeks I had him before I made these upgrades, was a bad shed. I had to actually soak him in water, and that was another tall tale sign that his environment just wasn't correct. Now, since I've made these modifications, he just went through a shed, and he did great. Other than a little tiny spot on right behind his head, everything came off great. So that's telling me that we're doing good on the humidity, and the environment is right where he needs it. And also, like I say, you can see that he's relaxed there. He's in his hide. He's not constantly looking for a way out of this enclosure. So the fact that he's actually just relaxing like that and sleeping is telling me that he is in fact comfortable right where he's at. So another good sign. Just keep an eye out on your snake's behavior. It can tell you a lot. But finally, I keep going back to this humidity and heat controller. This was relatively cheap for what it does. This is an Inkbird. It's got great reviews. They're supposed to be very accurate. It was $70, but it was probably the best money I've spent on this whole setup, because as you can tell, I do not have to keep an eye on this enclosure anymore. This box pretty much does it all for me. With the humidity pump, with this fogger that pumps humidity in, and then with the heat pads hooked into this thing, it makes it pretty well relatively maintenance free for me as far as keeping up the environment. Which is crucial because as long as I top this humidifier off, I have no doubt that I can go on vacation for 2 or 3 weeks and not have to worry about what this enclosure is doing. I can go to work every day and not worry about this enclosure. So if you're looking for something to make your life a whole lot easier, don't be afraid to spend the money on something like this. It's well worth it. And finally, I'd like to talk about the substrate. Originally, I'd gotten the natural-looking wood substrate with the kit, which was fine. It looked great in there. I have nothing against it, other than the fact that when it came time to clean this enclosure, it was a lot of work. I had to pick this thing up, carry it outside, dump it, bring it back in, sweep it out with the shop vac, wipe it clean, all the fine dust, wipe it out of there. And it took a lot out of me. I just wasn't expecting that much work to clean that substrate out. And so I decided to order this kind of like a carpet material. It's also, it's for reptiles. What I like about it is it's easy cleanup. So whenever he makes a mess, just some mild soap and some rags or paper towel, and you just dab it out of there until your monthly, once a month, I take everything out, I clean it real good, and you can actually take this carpet material and throw it in the washer. And so it's reusable. So I have chosen the less maintenance over the substrate. And also it's better odor control. As you can imagine, wood inside of there with moisture and everything is going to cause probably somewhat of an odor. So I believe it's less odor. So like say, if that's something you just got to consider, work over looks. He seems to be pretty happy with that. What I find kind of funny here is I have these nice, elaborate, natural-looking hides in here, but he often chooses this simple toilet paper roll, which they say the tighter the hides, the more they like them. As you can see, there's just not a whole lot of space around him. He can feel all sides around him, which makes him feel a lot more secure. Also, I'm sure that cardboard helps him trap his heat better. But yeah, try it out. Your snake might really like it. But yeah, I just wanted to go over this enclosure for those of you that would like to keep your glass enclosure or find it hard to regulate your heat and humidity. Like say some people, they don't do the glass top. They keep the screen top, but then they cover half of it with say like cardboard or foil or something like that. I personally think the glass top looks better. The only thing I probably will change from here on out is I'll probably mount this box down below to kind of hide all these wires, and that's it. I think that will be good for the next 20 years or however long my little friend here lives. And good luck to you. And like I say, I hope this video helps you on keeping yourself and your snake happy.